Dear friends, introducing SICOT Pioneer, Programme of Innovative Orthopaedic Networking, E-Learning, Education and Research. What is SICOT Pioneer? A stratosphere built up of cloud and web-based infrastructure that enable communication, storage and on-demand utility of educational resource by and for our membership. The aim of the platform is to encourage cross-pollination and a virtual delivery of goals within the different pillars of the Education Academy and beyond for the global orthopaedic population. Our traits include being disruptive, global, abolishing divide, inclusive and collaborative. The SICOT Pioneer Virtual Education Programme will begin in June 2020 and consist of a variety of educational event formats that encompass all orthopaedic specialties, training, research and innovative practices.
A very good morning, good afternoon and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Vikas Kanduja, Consultant Orthopaedic Surgeon in Cambridge, UK, and the Chair of the Education Academy in SICOT. And it is indeed a pleasure to welcome all of you to this webinar logging in from all corners of the world. Now, in the COVID world of non-contact domains, we've certainly embraced digital competitiveness with the launch of the SICOT Pioneer program. And through this platform, we've done over 30 events now and have had over 50,000 views from 110 countries from around the world. So a big thank you for joining us and following us on these events. Now, in this episode, rather than the usual webinar format, we'll be having a conversation with individuals who have made a global impact on healthcare. In our episode today, and on the recent occasion of Guru Purnima, my partner in crime, Dr. Gaurisan Trivendran, and myself will pick the brains of the Guru himself, Professor Rajasekaran. Now, Professor Rajasekaran does not need any introduction, but he's the chairman of the Department of Orthopaedics, Trauma and Spine Surgery at the Ganga Hospital, Coimbatore in India. Now, this is currently the largest orthopedic specialty hospital in South Asia with over 650 beds with 35 operating theaters. Now, they cater to more than 150,000 orthopedic patients every year and perform over 25,000 major operations. There isn't a single leadership position in orthopedics that Professor Rajasekaran has not been a part of or the president of. Currently, the president of the Asia Pacific Spine Society, the AO Spine International Board, past president of SICOT, of the Indian Orthopedic Association, of CSRS-AP, president of the Association of Spine Surgeons of India for 4 years, and I can continue. Again, there isn't a single academic distinction that Professor Rajasekaran has not got, including the Hunterian Professorship from the Royal College of Surgeons of England in 2011 and 12, and being the distinguished visitor at the Harvard Medical International, Boston in USA. He is also the deputy editor of the Bone and Joint Surgery in US and the deputy editor of the Journal of Spine based in the US as well. Again, not a single award that Professor Rajasekaran has not been awarded, right from NAS to the ISILS Prize for multiple years for extremely good research in spine surgery, 2004, 2010, 2013, and 2017. He has over 303 publications in international journals, multiple presentations all around the world, and he continues to inspire us. Now, his CV goes over 100 pages, and I think I can keep going on for the next 40 minutes, but that'll be the end of this webinar. So I'll stop there. Raja, pleasure to have you on board. Thank you very much for giving up your time. And Gao, over to you.
Thank you, Vikas. Thank you, Gao. It's really an honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Raja, once again, thank you very much for being on this platform. For the purpose of this webinar, I'll call you the Guru, because I think this title of this Tête-à-Tête is very aptly described you, because for many of us, it's aside your charisma and character, it's your role as a leader and a teacher that has inspired a lot of us and made a lot of difference. So to the tone of the first question, Raja, the landscape of surgical training, orthopedic training in particular, has changed a lot in the last 10 to 15 years, but probably even more in the last 18 months with COVID. My question to you, Raja, is the conventional relationship between teacher and student, sort of, guru and disciple, mentor and mentee, has changed a lot with artificial intelligence, surgical simulation, and if you like, Dr. Google, for the sake of a better word. Do you think this is going the right way? If it's not, then what are the things you think we should quickly change to make this relationship more sacred and more effective for both teacher and disciple?
Yeah. Go, you're right on spot with your first question. I think this is something that's of major concern. As you said, the world changes, and it has changed rapidly for good or worse in the last 18 months. And I think one of the things that has completely been upset is the surgical training. Now, I think in surgical training, for every trainee, there are two aspects. One is knowledge, the other is wisdom. And what has happened in these 18 months is we have had a high flood of knowledge. I mean, there's a webinar every single day. I mean, not one, many. And there's a lot of talk about webinar fatigue also. It's just overburdened with webinars and knowledge. But does that make you into a good doctor is the next question. Because I think being a good doctor has much more than just having good knowledge. And here is where the sanctimonious word mentorship comes into. Because I think with whom you train is more important than what you are learning. Because when they use the English proverb, apple never falls far from its tree, I think they meant it for parents, but I would actually extend it to your mentor also. If you actually look into all people who are respected now in medicine, you will always find that they had good mentors. And it's not how big a IQ they had, but what sort of mentorship that they have. And here is where we are lacking a lot now. Artificial intelligence, Dr. Google, simulation surgeries, YouTube, new media, all can tell you what to do, but they cannot tell you when to operate, or even better, when not to operate. These are the decision-making things that you learn by walking around with your mentor in the wards, see him talking to the patient, see him making valued judgments. And we are having a serious lack of this during the COVID time. And I'm really worried about the trainees who are passing through these 2 or 3 years and that big deficit in what would be their knowledge, their wisdom when they come out of this. I would just make it very short for a few examples of what you learn. You learn a lot, but I can easily recall what I learned from my mentors, which stands to me to this day of making me. I was training with Dr. Ravi Kumar, in fact, a pediatric surgeon when I was in house surgeon. And he used to always tell us, the best pre-medication you can give for any surgery is a surgeon's visit to the bedside the previous night and reassure the patient. And to see the patient before he is inducted in the operating theater and say, this will be all right, don't worry. And he says the best post-operative analgesia is to visit the family, call the members and talk to them and say that the patient is okay. These things are never told in any books. And I trained with Professor Shanmuganathan. He used to say, please don't be the cutting-edge surgeon, because cutting-edge surgeons always leave a lot of blood in their hands and on the patient's complications. There is no harm in being 3 or 4 years behind the cutting edge. And these are the things that actually get stuck in your mind, and it defines or what sort of surgeon you become later in your life. Things that really matter: to put the patient first, to have empathy to the patient, how to be really true to the patient. I mean, you can't learn from artificial intelligence. I mean, there is nothing in artificial intelligence which will teach you all of these. And I think we seriously lack this mentorship. And any of these surgical programs now in any of the universities which tilt the balance towards artificial intelligence and others, I think we realistically need to go back to guru, shishya type. I think we need to bring it back. I am not saying that it should be totally that, We cannot leave away artificial intelligence and other things. They are all very important, but they should not dominate surgical training. I would anyway, every day, anytime, vote strongly in favor of having a good mentorship.
So, Raja, staying on that, that's again words of wisdom and two fantastic examples for all the trainees really all around the world, and more than trainees, consultants as well. But building on that, you've obviously been in the leadership position of many societies with education changing so rapidly, and like you say, wisdom not available frequently. What should big institutions or global institutions like, for example, SICOT or SICOT be focusing on in terms of their themes for education going forward?
So, because you want a frank answer?
Yes, absolutely. This is heart to heart, Raja.
Yeah, okay, I'll open my mind and heart on this. I've been on the leadership position in many organizations, and I really feel sad or slightly perturbed when during the discussions on the organizational events and also on the academic structure of these meetings, a lot is talked about revenues during the annual meetings. And that sometimes takes precedence over what is science. Now, because, at the end of any meeting, when you say we had a hugely successful meeting, one of the things that first comes on the slide is what is the turnover and what is the profit. I think this has to completely change. We need to put that behind our back. And we need to go on. There must be a good educational committee. I'm very happy that SICOT is doing really fantastic under both on your shoulders. We need to really decide on what are the topics which are going to be very important to the patient. What should be the knowledge and what should be the structure of education which is actually going to benefit the person who needs it most. And we do not need to forget that our medical profession is for the patient. And here needs a lot of wisdom on the educational committee to make sure and differentiate what is an advance and what is a current knowledge. Because, many things keep coming all the time, but only a few of them stay after 4 or 5 years as an advance, which is of true benefit to the patient. So I think SICOT and all the others must actually make sure that what is taught in SICOT, what is discussed in SICOT, and what is taught during the lunchtime symposia or everything are actually recent advances. Because when you have a lunch symposium in such a prestigious organization as SICOT, you are unknowingly putting a stamp of approval on that technique and that technology or whatever it is. And that is giving an information to every one of the delegates that this is an important advance in the medical science. It may not be. If the decision to have that lunch symposium is not on the basis of time-tested knowledge or a proven benefit to the patient, or it is just decided because it is the current thing, it is the in thing, it is the most discussed aspect on the web, or it is the company that actually is going to be more best for holding the lunch symposium. So all big organizations must realize that whenever they are holding a speaker, or whenever they are inviting a topic, or whenever they are organizing any program, that they are giving an international approval seal of that this is authenticated knowledge and advance. And organizations must take over the responsibility of deciding what is good and must not leave it to the industry. And I think, unfortunately, in many countries, I don't want to name them, but the education at the postgraduate level and also after the postgraduate training has been completely taken over by the industry. So I think SICOT and other organizations must fight against it.
Thanks, Raja. That's again very insightful. And then a personal question on training. You had come to the UK to train, and you were here for a few years. There was everything going for you. You had got a consultant job, but then you decided to leave the UK and then move to India. So what was that factor which made you do that? And then obviously the rest is history in terms of the Ganga Hospital and the growth.
Yeah. So because I think when you go to England to train, it also depends upon for what reason you are going. Are you going for training, or are you going for a better life or a better profession? I'm not at all against, or I don't think anything wrong of people settling abroad, because now it's a global village. And I think for any one of the reasons, if you think that you'll be able to do a better professional life abroad, it's okay. But for me, the returning back was hugely personal. My father and mother had started a small hospital, the Ganga Hospital. It had only 17 beds and 2 small operating theatres. It was not even an orthopedic hospital or a plastic surgery hospital. It was more of a general hospital. It was called nursing homes at that period of time. And but they had a dream that my brother and I would come back and make it into a better hospital and a bigger hospital. And right from my young age, because my father and mother, they used to tell us a lot of stories of all the patients and other things. And we knew that there was a deep down strong dream in them to build an institution. And I think there was never any doubt or any temptation in my mind that I should stay back in UK. So in fact, the time when I got the consultant, I got it very prematurely because of some events there of one consultant falling sick. And that actually precipitated my return back, because if I had to take the consultant's post, then I had to stay there. So it came. It was a personal reason, but if at all, if you ask me one question in your rapid fire, what was the best decision you did in your life? I have no hesitancy to say coming back to India.
Well, there's no doubt, from 17 beds to so many beds and over 25,000 operations per annum. There's no doubt about that for sure. And high quality as well.
Yeah, it's not only the quality, but it's just that giving back to your own people. And it's a different whole environment, and it's a different feeling when you're, yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Raja. Gao.
Raja, I want to just pick up on what you had just said about your career move from the UK back to India. And I just want to ask from the perspective of a trainee. So you were an academic, you were a clinician, you were ready to be a consultant, but correct me if I'm wrong, you never had any formal corporate or kind of business training. But then you were back in Coimbatore, and you basically built Ganga Hospital together with your brother and this group, effectively from scratch. So from a trainee's perspective, how important do you think is corporate training or a formal, MBA, for example, in this day and age? Is that important? Should everyone be doing it? And at what stage should we be doing it?
What Gao is asking is, should he be investing his time in a PhD or an MBA?
Well, to answer Gao, it depends upon what you want in life, and what you're aiming at the end of your profession. What do you want to be on the last day of your profession? I mean, towards that aim, I think you should decide on what to be like. So if you are going to be a very good consultant, like let's say Vikas, because he's right in front of us. So if you want to be very renowned consultant in a renowned hospital, then your foremost need is to be very good in your academics. You need to be a great scientist, and you need to be a good surgeon, and you need to be a good teacher. That's the package that you need to be where Vikas needs to be. And also he needs to be a good administrator in a sort of way to run his unit and other things. But if you have to start a hospital from scratch, and then you need to build it up, then that's entrepreneurship built into your medical field also. That brings a lot of other requirements. You need to be a team player. You need to show your leadership skills to build a team and to keep the team with you. You need to have a basic amount of financial knowledge on what it is. And you need certain amount of, I think I'm being modest in saying certain amount of, you need to be a big risk taker. Because, hospitals need a lot of investment now. And the health industry is not a great industry. It doesn't work on a huge profit margin like food industry or other industries. And so you are always taking a big risk with every one of your investment. So you need all these skills. And to me, if you ask, do you need all these skills? Definitely. But I think leaders and managers are made and they are not, what do you say? I mean, many of the decisions you need to take in your life, you take it with your gut feeling and not what the book says. And that way I have been very lucky. So if you can rephrase your question and ask, where did you learn all your business skills from? And I would say I didn't have to look very far away because the entire administration of the hospital was done by my mother. So my mother also didn't have any formal business education, but she was a person who had all the business in her guts. And, she had administration, she had financial in her brains. And after that, we have been very, very ably supported by our life partners. So they have been very good in paying the administration. So I cannot take the entire credit of building the Ganga. I like to, but it's not the truth. So there has been a lot of people who are playing their respective roles. And that's the secret behind the success of Ganga Hospital. But if you want to be an entrepreneurship, I think you need to know the basics of business.
So Raja, means obviously what you're suggesting here is that you've been blessed and been able to carry on like a surgeon because you had extremely good managers in your mom, your life partners around you to actually handle the hospital.
Yeah. Because the thing is, I always say the biggest blessing we have had is that my brother and I are working in the hospital as surgeons with the administration working for us and not against us. So having the family to support in your decisions and to look at you, I mean, that was a really big help.
Going on from there, I mean, the other big thing that is actually where we all struggle with pretty much all around the world, and especially now in the post-COVID era where waiting lists are increasing, is efficiency and building in efficiency into the system, and how you able to offer extremely high quality and fairly low cost surgery. So how have you built this in your institution? If you could touch upon efficiency, building efficiency, low cost and high quality surgeries. How does that happen? Means we get it that obviously you own the administration, so you can pretty much do anything, but keeping that aside.
Yeah, so because low cost, high quality medical care is an essential need in India. So I would like to reiterate Devi Shetty's words here, that he once put up a slide which got stuck in my brain because it's very true. He said, every morning when you start work as a consultant in India, you have an important responsibility to do, and that is to fix a price on the health and well-being of a fellow citizen of your country. And it's such a powerful statement, because one of the challenges I faced after coming back from UK is that you get referred a lot of patients, children with gross deformities, children with gross disabilities, with massive infections. And the challenge that they have neglected this for such a long time is because that they have not been able to afford to. So you then have a choice when you have this patient in front of you, is to either say, okay, if you don't afford this, then I can't treat you. And that's not going to allow you to sleep peacefully at night. Or you take it as a challenge and then see how it would be possible for you to do this very effectively. And then you have no choice except to build a low cost, high value. I would just say a few requirements for that. Number one is it should be in your heart. You should have a deep desire to do that. And it should not be empty words. And that's why we put it on the mission statement of the hospital. The mission statement of the hospital says that the expertise of the hospital must be available to every single citizen of the country. And when you put it as a powerful statement and put it on top of in front of your hospital, then, you have put it in black and white, in rock, written on the wall of the hospital, then you cannot turn back a patient away. And to do this, you have to achieve many things. One is you have to make a conscious decision on every aspect. Is this the right thing for the patient to do? I mean, every single investigation you do, is it necessary? Every single operation you do, is it necessary? And if you decide to operate, is this the best operation and is it the simplest operation which will give? I mean, in the choice of your instrumentation, in the choice of your surgery, in the choice of your prosthesis, in the choice of your medicine, your investigations, there are multiple points in which you can work very effectively. You can be a very expensive treatment pathway can be there, or it can be a very simple pathway. Now, once you do that, the second important thing is if you have a high turnover, it helps you in many ways. So, numbers are very powerful. Now, once you cross a threshold of your numbers, then it helps you to do a subsidy in a large way. Now, if you treat 100 patients, then you can treat one patient free without much problem. If you treat 1,000 patients, then you can not only treat 10 patients free, it's not the same ratio. You will suddenly find that you're able to treat 25 patients free. If you're able to extend it to 10,000 patients, then you suddenly find you're able to treat 250 patients free. And when you cross the 25,000 mark, then you suddenly find that you can treat 1,000 patients at a highly subsidized cost. So getting a good number, and it's all like one helps the other. You start subsidizing, you start giving good quality, your numbers grow up, and because of that, it gives you a power to do what you want to do. The third thing is you use the word efficiency all the time in your question. And if you have to do a low cost, high quality, you have to be sure that every process, every step of the process is very efficient. Now, if you have 25, or if you have an operating theater, is it okay if you operate just 3 cases a day? Or is it possible to operate 5 cases? Or then ask another question, why can't you operate 7 cases in the same operating theater? How do you break or reduce your turnaround times? Why can't you start a little early and end a little late? How can you change your quality time and your staff training times and your staff utilization time so that this becomes possible? So by increasing efficiency, you will suddenly find that your cost comes much lower. But because in the end, the high quality and low cost are so intertwined. Because what makes treatment very costly is complications. Now, complications simply soar up your costs so high. And complications is like poison for the whole system. Because number one, it increases your bed time, the number of days they stay in the hospital. You sometimes need to do 2 or 3 operations to revise your results. That shoots the cost so high. Amount of drugs you need is so high. And more importantly, it occupies the surgeon's time quite a lot. It actually occupies your time. Third is, it actually reduces the morale of the entire team. So the confidence of the whole society on your unit. So, it's all so intertwined. So if it is stuck very right in your heart, if you would increase your numbers, if you can employ the principle of cross subsidy, because when you have 10,000 patients, you will suddenly find 2,500 are very, very well to do. So why can't they cross subsidy a little bit of cost for the other 2,500 on this end of the spectrum? So, all these adjustments and all these calculations are easily possible when your numbers are very high. And your
one quick question there. Is there an ideal ratio for theaters versus beds?
It depends upon, that's a very tricky, because it depends on where you're operating.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're in the UK, or in any Western country where if you discharge the patient goes to a step-down unit, or if they go home, there is a very good home nurse facility, then your bed to theatre ratio can be much lesser, because you're going to discharge them anyway fast. But if you have 1,000 patients, at least 400 to 500 of them are coming from a distance of more than 1,000 kilometers for us. So it's impossible to discharge a total joint replacement for us less than 5 days. It is impossible, even though you may do an endoscopic spine surgery. He's coming from 750 kilometers away and you can't discharge him the next day morning. You have to keep him 1 day more. So it obviously is, even though the magic figure of, they say in orthopedics, 1:6, or 1 is between 6 and 10, I think it depends a lot on where you're operating.
Thanks, Raja. Go, over to you.
Raja, I want to go off on a little bit of a tangent and ask you about sleeping with the enemy, aka industry. We all rely more and more on industry at different levels. Some of us are, dating. Some of us are engaged. Some of us are married to industry, depending on what their role is. There is a huge negative portrayal associated with this, but yet a lot of surgeons, especially established surgeons, practicing surgeons, do this. What are your views on flirting, sleeping with industry?
Okay. Gav, you used the word sleeping with the enemy. So I think you're going to be very unpopular with the enemy. And I loved your word dating, flirting, and sleeping, because, it's completely, you didn't use the word working with the industry. You used only the 3 words, sleeping, dating, and flirting. Now, I think working with the industry, there is no option. You have to do it. Because I think the surgeons and the industry are interdependent. Because every single advance that now has to take place needs a lot of technology, needs a lot of research, needs a lot of trials, a lot of proof. It has to get ethical approvals. It has to get FDA approvals. And, you can't do that without the industry. A surgeon, however brilliant he is and whatever a great idea he has, it cannot see the realms of reality without going through the rigorous process and the multiple steps, which are very, very difficult nowadays without the industry. But having said that, there is a thin line between working with the industry and sleeping with the industry. And that is the biggest problem. I'm sure that every surgeon starts with working with the industry, and somewhere it ends up with flirting with the industry and then sleeping with the industry. So when you're working with the industry, I use the same words that you used. When you're working with the industry, you can be a master. You can call the shots. You can say what you want and you can get what you want done. But when you sleep with somebody, then there is obviously a certain amount of surrender and sacrifice and let go of whatever it is, whether it is with the human beings or with the industry. Then you obviously are ready to sacrifice a lot of things. And there comes the problem. And there is ample proof that this is happening a lot. It happens with very famous people. It happens with the most important opinion leaders, and that's why the industry wants to sleep with them. And that can create a lot of problems for the youngsters. Because if the industry says that this product is good, people will ask, where is the proof? But if I hold somebody as my role model, I hold him as my ideal in my profession, and he says that this is good, then I let down all my pretensions or my questioning, and then I will just accept it without proof. And that is why surgeons are so precious for the industry. And that is why now it's not, consultants' fees. It's called now. It's not called commission or anything. It's called consultants' fees. And sometimes these consultants' fees go into millions. I don't think there is anything that a surgeon can do. If he gets a part of the patent rights, it's different. But just to offer an opinion and to give lectures around the world, when millions of dollars are being given, I think somewhere working has led on to sleeping. And they are going to promote anything that the industry says. They are going to act as the tongue and the hand of the industry. I think you'll have to be really, really careful with. And this is where I think mentorship comes very much. I always see that if you have worked with a mentor who has been a consultant to a large number of industries, your primary aim of success, your own idea of are you successful or not, depends upon whether you are a consultant to one of the industries. And you crave for that. I actually tell all my industry people, whenever they ask me for a consultant, I say, my dream is that in the last lecture I give, when I end my profession, my second slide remains the same as it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, last year, this year. No consultant to any industry partner and no financial disclosures required. I mean, all of us make enough enough of us are starving, and I think it is good. And there is ample proof that just one day, it is not scientifically proved. It's all in the literature. One single dinner, which is flamboyant, one single holiday ticket, one single anything, a ticket to a football, it can really sway your prescriptions and your decisions in profession. And, we need to build consciously. So because you asked me, what can SICOT do to youngsters? And this is exactly what I want to say. SICOT and others have to show the surgeons that there is an ethical method of practice. There is a practice where you have to work with the industry but not sleep with the industry. And these are all the things that big international organizations are due. And, there lies the glory of SICOT.
So Raja, building on that then, advice for somebody who's just starting off their orthopedic training. What is the ideal way of progressing in the current scenario? COVID times, difficult to find a mentor, difficult operating on elective orthopedic patients because of where we are, and work-life balance, and with so much of information around. So what would your advice be to this guy who's starting off their orthopedic training, the ideal next 3 to 5 years? How would you navigate this?
Because I think the most important thing is patience. So these are difficult times, and this is a challenge to everybody. So, but this is not an excuse for you to get off track and do anything dubious, which is not correct. So would we accept this in food industry or something which is very important to us, that if they say, okay, my profits are coming down, my times are not good, so I would just deviate a little bit from safety standards. So COVID times are really bad. It has posed a challenge to everybody. But I would also call this COVID times as filtering times. When the times are good, everybody is good. It's only during these challenging times, it's going to show a clear filter between who are all the people with character, who are all the people with grit, who are all the people who will come out successfully, or people who succumb to these difficult times. So for every youngster, I would say, these are tough times. But when the going gets tough, they say that the tough get going. And this is the time for you to be patient. Patience till this time pass away. Even this will pass away. And at that time, when you look back, every one of us must be able to be very clear in our conscience and say that we stood the test of this time and now we will progress. So be with good mentors, learn a lot as much as you can, but this is a lot of extra time for you. There is a lot of loads of time on you because of less work, and this time must be used in research and in good practices, building up good clinical practices. So be patient. Definitely there is a bright light at the end of this long tunnel.
Raja, we are having loads of fun, and we've had some fantastic pearls of wisdom from you, starting right in the beginning from the differentiation between knowledge and wisdom. Certainly in the last 40 minutes, we are hopefully a bit wiser. But the last section, we can continue talking, but time is calling. So the last section of this webinar would be a rapid fire. So ask you some personal and difficult questions, and whatever comes to your mind first, you need to answer. So I'll hand over to Gao for preparing the difficult set of questions. Go for it, Gao.
So Raja, I'm asking you this because all the trainees out there want to hear and think like what the guru is thinking. So tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, right? You famously said there was no such thing as work-life balance. So we want to know, what do you do for leisure?
So leisure, there is a lot of family time, and I read a lot, non-fiction books, and I'm also slightly spiritually tilted. So, I mean, these three things actually, I listen to music too. Reading is one of my great pastimes, and just sitting at home and chatting with everybody is great for me.
How often do you exercise, Raja?
Not as much as I should have then when I was in 40s and 50s, but much more now. And during this COVID time, it has reached a good peak. So exercising in the ways of fast walking, and I am now doing it much more this. And I also started stress training now, which is pretty good. But everybody else in my team are marathon runners. So I am the lone one out.
For now, but you'll get there. Raja, you talked about the best decision you made in your professional or working life. Is there a regrettable decision?
Regrettable decisions, Gao, because sometimes you think of expanding and other things, but then you have not done, because at that period of time, that seemed the best decision to do. So if we had taken those decisions, I am not sure whether we would have been very happy or whether we would have ended up with regret. So all the decisions made at that time were informed, well-decided decisions. So I don't look back on it to regret upon it at all.
Sure.
You don't know if you have taken the other path, what would have happened.
Sure. And the last part, Raja, this is a yes or no bit. From the trainee's point of view, making decisions, just tell me, do you agree yes, or do you say no, it's a bad idea? Early marriage.
What is the definition of early?
Well, final year of medical school or first year as a trainee.
For marriage and post-graduation, a big S in capital letters, underlined, bold, and in italics.
Early kids?
Again, bold, underlined, italics, hyphen, yes. Because you need to be a...
Sports car? Okay.
Go ahead.
Sports car?
Sorry, I can't hear.
Sports car?
Yeah, sports car. No.
Okay. Thank you very much, Raja. It's been fantastic having you on board. Vikas, over to you.
Thanks, Gao, and thank you very much, Raja. One more question from me. You've obviously had multiple accolades. Your CV is full. What has been the best accolade? Surely it has to be featuring on this Pioneer platform.
Yeah, of course. I don't want to dispute that. With you both today has been one of my best times.
No, on a lighter note, Raja. So which one would you actually put as your best?
I received the award from Professor Abdul Kalam when he was the president in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Well, getting it from him was very sweet. Was a great honor. And also, the Rashtrapati Bhavan itself is so opulent and this thing, the whole thing. And then I got this award along with Professor R.V., who established Arvind Hospitals, and Devi Shetty, who established Narayana Hindwale. And there is a whole lot of people who you always looked up to, and to be on the same seat with them and to get the award, it was really great. And on the international scene, I have no hesitancy to say being the Hunterian professor also was a big, something which I enjoyed very much.
Brilliant, Raja. It's 11:45 to the dot. We've had 45 minutes of absolute sheer wisdom being translated from you. So thanks a ton for your time. Thank you very much, Gao, for being the partner in crime in all these events. And have a lovely weekend to all.